Cool. So that's the quickest that's actually started all day. This is the NWC Show, episode 22. And if you would like to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Molly Spartan. For those who are not aware of who I am, I mean the less educated out there, I am the beautiful bruiser and the sin of professional wrestling and one half of one of the most dominating tag teams who are female, the She-Wolves.
Best intro we've had so far. So, what got you into wrestling is how we always kick these off, just to kind of break the ice. What got you into professional wrestling? What was that moment you're like, this is my jam?
So I've had a few this is my jam moments, and it just sort of when the jam hits, my interest of things escalated. But one of my first memories is I don't know if you had it, but a lot of people had this. But growing up, there was like these small black telewest, like cable boxes.
Yeah.
And on now, I can't vividly remember if it was channel 21 or 22. I'm saying that so that nobody on the internet decides to strangle me and go, she's lying. It was channel 22. But it was the channel that had Cartoon Network on it. And one of the things that like a lot of my mates know and people that know me, this would be my mastermind question. I am one of the most avid Powerpuff Girl fans there is going. I have a tattoo. My finisher is called the Chemical X because that's what made the Powerpuff guy. I'm a pure Powerpuff Girls mark. But in doing so, obviously, at that point in time, that was one of the main cartoons that were on Cartoon Network. And I am Cartoon Network girl at heart, like... I was like, Nickelodeon was good and Disney Channel was great, but no, Cartoon Network was where it was at. But on that box in that channel, Cartoon Network only stayed on till like 9 o'clock at night. And on a Friday night, it would change to TNT, which obviously famously hosted WCW and Nitro. So what I used to remember was, when TNT used to come up, there used to be this screen that came up and said like, the channel is about to change to TNT. This is past Watershed, yada, 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 yada. And for some reason in my head, the TNT logo's spinning. But I don't know if that was true or if I've just edited that in my mind over years. But it used to come up and it used to be that warning. And that to me was just change channel. That was the point when I was a kid where I changed the channel. But for some reason this week, the sign didn't come up. And the next episodes of Powerpuff Girls came on and I was like, yes! Like, ooh! But at that very moment of me getting excited, the channel changed and it was Bill Goldberg's just massive screaming face in the telly. And I was just like, ah! Like I remember just that, oh, what is that? Like thing, like falling off a kitchen. My little brother coming through and being like, what's going on? What happened? What happened? Because he's just heard these bigger sisters screamed and then a thud. And that's sort of how we sort of started watching wrestling. It literally came screaming onto our television. Because what would happen is like at the weekends, like Friday or Saturday, my mum and dad go out for a few drinks and my cousin would be the one that would come and like babysit us. And I always remember like me and my brother like going, right, on a Friday we'll watch the wrestling. And then by the time it was finishing, my mum and dad had made their way home and my mum would come in and my mum had this weird theory that whoever got punched first was winning. Like, so she'd sit and go, he's winning. Tail, yeah. And I'd be like, what? Okay. But obviously over time we'd get different like television providers and stuff like that because it was the era where like everybody's telly package was one of the most exciting things to have. And when you got Sky, it was massive. And when the man came and fitted the dish, you were like, yes. But yeah, we eventually just got Sky, and then obviously we were able to get access to like WWE, WWF at the time. And that's when my brother's infatuation with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson started. Still to this day, like my brother has avidly looked me in the eyes and told me the reason why he supports my career in wrestling is because one day he'll meet The Rock because of it. And I'm like, thanks. Not just because I could do it. No, you'll meet The Rock. Like, I remember when he moved out, like the first time with my parents' home, there had been this poster on the back of his bedroom door for so long that when it was removed, the colour difference was very substantial, like in comparison. So growing up, he was The Rock, so I took many a rock bottom, and I was Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he took many a stunner. Like my poor dad having to stay up to the wee hours to like record WrestleMania so we could get up and watch it the following like tea time or breakfast or whatever. And yeah, my bro, I really loved it, but like I just remember at that point my brother was obsessed with The Rock. But then obviously it was weird. Like growing up, eventually, like I became the one obsessed with to a point where I was going to university pretty much to study what was required on WWE's website. And yeah, it's like, as I'm saying, there's a few jams in my life that's just escalated to where I am now.
No, I think it's such a cool story. Obviously, kids nowadays, my kids don't understand, like, you had to stay and record, you had to, like, VHS was back then, you barely got any. You would have to, maybe Asda would have one, everybody would go get it. I'm from Glasgow, so a place called The Forge is where I used to get the VHSs, so like the King of the Ring, WCW.
My husband's obviously East End born and bred, so he talks about like obviously the like for some reason everybody I know, including my husband, they all ended up with a tape from like a cousin or a mate of theirs, or the mate's brother had it and then they ended up in their possession and stuff like that. Where I didn't have it, like my cousins and that were all predominantly female. The only couple that I knew were I really didn't have much to do with, but I was incredibly boisterous. I wasn't I remember my cousins brought me over like all their old Barbies and my mum found me shaving their heads. Like I just wasn't that kind of, I was just always more like, let's go climb trees. And like when I had a little brother, like I didn't have a little brother, when my mum had my little brother, it's one of those ones where it was just great and we were always really close. And even when we grew up and our styles and our choices and everything like that, like sort of our taste grew rapidly apart, we were all still very, very close and very defensive. Like I remember like I was pure like emo, giant fringe, eyeliner that like I had hair that could tackle Motley Crue, like make them look like they've got wee hair, and thick, like I had the thick Amy Winehouse eyeliner before she even came around, and like my school uniform was this like big baggy black and white, like black and pink pinstripe trousers with like blazer that was all swaggly and my brother, like I remember my brother coming home and like there was a point where I was wearing all that, my brother was in a white tracksuit and we used to go, is that your wedding outfit, and like bam him up in that way. But I always remember walking home when I had obviously at that point I had a CD Walkman, which was my friend, it was this blue CD Walkman. And walking home and I'd ran out of batteries, but I was just pretending I was still listening to music. And somebody who was in his crew going, look at that goth coming, like let's go, and him going, what? And seeing me and going, don't you talk about my sister like that. So even though he was completely unaware that I heard everything, the fact that in my head I was like, he still got my back, even no matter what. But I think it was because when we were kids, it was just this, he was able to actually, he didn't have a sister that was like, no, leave me alone. I was like, yeah, I'll take her on bottom, let's go, whoa. But like, right, I'll throw you into the tree, you need to bounce back and take out. Like, it was just, we were just always, and we still are, like, still, even though I live in Glasgow and he still lives in Fife, we're still very close. And occasionally I'll get some daft thing about some wrestling thing, or I've seen this on Twitter, and yeah, it's still a thing that's there.
No, I get what you mean with growing up when you're younger. I got sent to wrestling training, like professional, the old SWA Academy. I don't know if you remember that, in the middle of nowhere. It was like Linwood or something, like in a garage.
Is this the one that was in a post office?
No, it was in a garage, like what's it, industrial estate. It was just like literally it was like a garage door ring, and there was nothing else there. That's where I got sent.
I'm from Fife, so like, there was one training school in Glenrothes, and well, I don't even was in Glenrothes, but like it just wasn't like. But the thing is, like back in the day when I was sort of watching it, when I thought maybe I would do something like that, there wasn't anybody, and this makes it all go, oh, woe is me. But like at the time, there wasn't anybody in WWE that reflected who I was. I was always just a bigger girl. Like, I've always just been bigger. And that's not me going like, oh, give me compliments or any of that. It's not that. I was just always I was always like an inch taller than the girls. I was always just, right. It's fair to say I describe myself as a sturdy woman. I'm sturdy. You're not going to easily knock me down. If you knock me down, you've ran at me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not just easily like toppled. So I've always been like that, even as a kid. Most of the times if I've fallen, it's been my own doing. It's never been that somebody took me out. So I always felt like that. But in WWE, that just didn't reflect. Like, everybody was small and petite, and then they went into like the diva searches with models, and I was just like, yeah, none of them look like me remotely, and none of them even sound like me. Christ, Drew went over and he instantly went to elocution lessons, which is why he talks that way now. It's only been obviously recently that they've really embraced different accents and cultures and languages and things like that. But that's still quite a, like, even in like 2012, like when I was at uni, like reflecting on it, I'm just like, you know what? Like, there's nothing against the lassie or that, but I don't see myself in Kelly or like you know what I mean? Like, I just don't. Like, I think the closest person that I maybe related to back like 2012 was maybe Beth Phoenix, but even still, looks different to me. But she's sturdy. It's the best way I could describe it. But again, she wasn't Scottish. She was. Is she American? She's American.
I think she's American, yeah.
I think she's American. I was like, because I didn't want to do like a Scotland-England thing by calling up a Canadian and an American. I'm like, nah. But yeah, there wasn't. So for a very long time, although it'd be something I'd want to do, I just thought I never thought I'd be accepted. If that makes sense. It was very much a case of, well, that's not for me, so I'll do other things. But then when, like, I always say that she's a very, very close personal friend now, and like, but I don't think she understands when I try to tell her. But like the like Piper Niven, Viper, or whatever you knew her from when you found her, like the fact that she was like, when I first started training, she was like crushing it in Japan. Like, she was just dominating, and it was the fact that she was doing it and she was so confident and comfortable in her own skin. There was no false pretenses or anything. She was just her. And then obviously, like, through, like, you'd occasionally get like an Impact where it was like your Awesome Kongs or your like, things like that. And like, it was weird, but it was, again, having someone like that completely confident and beautiful in her own skin. Like, she's just stunning individual inside and out. But it is that, like, oh wait, I could do this and I can do it being me. I don't have to completely alter who I am. Like, there's nothing wrong with it getting in better shape and becoming fitter for your lifestyle and for your job, but I didn't have to go, right, well, I need to look like Brie Bella if I'm ever going to be able to get in a ring. I can completely embrace who I am and use that to my advantage.
You know, I think the difference between so I turned 30 this year, but growing up, like, I remember just like, I didn't take women's wrestling seriously for so long because it was just the brand panties stuff, and when I was getting DVDs and stuff, that was a match I would skip over. Like, so I don't want to watch this.
I do talk about it, like, the amount of times I'd be at like I'd go to like a walkabout or someplace where like it'd be a group watching Mania, and they like. I remember being in Walkabout once and looking over and actively when the women's match came, and it was the year that Snooki, is it Snooki? Is that her name?
I think so.
From the Jersey Shore.
I'm terrible with those names for the people.
Who was in the match, and the music hit, and I actively seen so many people just stand up and go to the bathroom, and I was like, they've not even given her a chance. I remember she did something really impressive in the match. Nobody expected her to even do anything, and she did something pretty impressive. Like, I don't know if it was like a Rana or something that was just like, that's an actual move, and everybody being like, oh, like, they were surprised, and I was like, if you give them a chance. The problem they had is that obviously when you watch things like, I remember watching like recently the Bailey and Sasha talking about their NXT sort of takeover match, like the first one, the famous one, and them talking about it like keeping parts of their match quiet and secret, because if they found out that they were going to do a dive or a flip or a jump or whatever, that there's a chance they get told to not do it because they were girls, and that somebody else was doing something. The fact they had to, in their own minds, go, we're saying nothing. Like, I think like maybe whoever was their age, I think it was Fit was their agent, was completely for them, but knowing that if one of the boys found out when they were doing walkthrough that it would get cut, and it was that feeling of like, I know what you're talking about. Like, I totally get that. Like, I understand that feeling of like, we'd sometimes need to be a bit sneaky, and it's been one of those ones. I feel like we've had to be a bit, not devious, but like we've had to stand up for ourselves to be like, oh, like if some of them, if you went in a square go, like, you ever seen the footage of Asuka getting a tanking for Suzuki?
Mm-hmm.
Right? She gets an absolute tanking, and she takes it. Suzuki's battering her, and she takes it, and it's that way where I'm watching it going, yeah, I'm not getting in a fight with her. Like, if she can just go, okay, and absolutely take a tanking for Suzuki, I'm just like, yeah, that woman's tough. That woman, if we got in a fight, she might take me, and she might take half the boys. And it's the same with like Shayna Baszler. I adore the woman because she gives me the fear. Like, there's something about her where I'm like, oh, I think I could fight them in a square go, but you might. It's the same with like Miko, but it's that like demanding respect. There's that legitimacy about them that you're like, that's the quality that you want. And women can have that. Like, Ronda Rousey has that. Like, there are people that have that legitimacy about them when you look at them, and when they look back at you, you're like, there's that doubt of like, could I take them in a fight? And that's the thing. And a lot of people, and Christ, it's one of those things where I try and say to people, like, who's the person you're most scared of in the world? 9 times out of 10, it's your mum. 9 times out of 10, you think when you do something bad, like when you've done something bad, even when she's not around, you're thinking, Christ, I hope my mom hasn't found it. And like, why is that then? Why is it all of a sudden that is like, no, girls, like, it's one of those things that I do get asked that a lot, because I think that because I'm not one of the small girls, because I've trained with guys pretty much all my days of training. Yeah, there's other girls that come in, and when they come in, I'm like, please don't leave, stay. You need to stay. Come on, we've got to do this. But it's that way where with the guys, I do train predominantly with men, and that's not a choice. It's just if I want to be able to train, I need to accept that. There's very few and far between all-female dojos, or like in schools, like Pro Eve has one down in London, but I'm not going to go to London. You know what I mean? But it's that way where, like, I'm not going to put on a match like, I don't know, like Peyton Royce versus Braun Strowman. That's not going to happen. But if you were to do a match with, say, Charlotte Flair and Seth Rollins, physically, it doesn't, like, it makes sense. Like, if there's legitimate reason, like if there's a legitimate reason to why they would fight, and physicality, you look at how they both perform and what they both deliver, you'd be like, yeah, that'd probably be a good match. It would be a good match. So why can't it happen? Like, WWE's just put up that documentary about the last, is it Haven or Heaven or something? It's just called. I've not watched. I started watching, but I'm not finished. But it's about a young lassie who was like a wrestling champion, like amateur wrestling, but it was because she was fighting boys her size and her weight and things like that and beating them. So why is it an issue in professional wrestling? If it makes sense, then let it happen. Like, I understand there's going to be people that are completely opposed to it because they're programmed that, like, no, boys don't hit girls. That's fine, but that shouldn't be the lesson. It should be, don't hit people. Girls shouldn't be hitting boys. Boys shouldn't be hitting girls. That's the lesson. It shouldn't just be like, boys don't hit girls. Boys shouldn't be hitting boys either. But it's that way where, the amount of times where I've been on a night out and I've seen some lassie, and I mean lamp a boy, like lamp them, but be like, you can't hit me back because I'm a girl. And I'm like, whoa, 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 no, 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 no. If I punch you in the face, if we met, Barry, and I came up to you and punched you square in the face, I'm prepared to get hit back, because that's what it should be. If you're going to put your hands on somebody else, you need to be mentally prepared that you might get punched back, and you need to be ready for that.
It's such a weird concept, and like, it's wrestling. We all know it's a work and stuff like that. Like, why can they not have? Well, maybe it is. Who knows? But why can they not just have, like you said, like Charlotte Flair going against, like Charlotte Flair? For me, right now my favourite wrestler is Rhea Ripley. Unfortunately, sorry about that, but she's like my favourite wrestler ever, and I
apologise. She's incredible.
I believe that she can go against any guy. Like, I would love to see her do, like, go against Seth Rollins or just anybody in the main roster. Yeah. Believably, she could genuinely probably beat somebody up. Like,
your Rhea Ripley's, your Raquel Gonzalez's, Shayna Baszler's, like even Asuka. Like, I keep thinking, like, who? Like, could you imagine if it was like Asuka Nakamura had a go?
I think that would be amazing as well.
It'd be good. Like, you're just like, this is a good match. There's a reason why, like Miko's a prime example. Like, before Miko was obviously doing the NXT UK stuff, like, Pete Dunne booked Miko for Fight Club Pro so he could wrestle her because she was that good. Like, if you're that good at something, why can't you compete? Like, it's professional wrestling, for Christ's sake, right? And I get that there's this, you want a legitimacy and everything like that, but, and again, I get that there's going to be people, and there are people, and I've met them, who are like completely opposed to China being involved with any doings and everything like that, and that's fine. But when I hear people talk about, and you hear wrestlers back in the day talk about how when they were involved with China, and, oh, they shouldn't be here, but at that time, I don't think she was probably given the fair chance to learn. Where, and like, so when you look at like when Lita and Trish got the main event and how much they had to, like, they probably had to secretly go and like train and figure everything out, but they wouldn't be getting the fair, like, there's not a chance that they were getting the same sort of time and dedication put into their performing and their ability to wrestle compared to the guys, because the guys were there to do it. They had to figure it out themselves, and in comparison to what there is now, it is like, even although their matches were good, it's nothing in comparison to like Io Shirai and Toni Storm going at it or things like that. But that's because the attitude towards how to teach girls has completely changed. Like, it's no longer that you have to wrestle like a diva. Like, it's insulting. And I'll be honest, working in wrestling for over a decade, lassies are hardly the divas in wrestling. Like, they're hardly ever, they are the ones that show up on time, they get ready as soon as possible, and they do it, like, when you be there. But it's because we've had to burst our arse to be taken seriously. So we'll do everything we can to not be an issue, to not be like I mean, I'm not saying there are none that are egotistical. I'm not saying there are none, but the amount of times where like the lassies' locker room is ready to go, and they're trying to go, like, they're ready to go, like, right, yeah, there's hardly ever any time where like you can't find the lassie, like, she's ready to go. But sometimes you need to be like, where on earth is so and so? Like, go find it. Like, it's that kind of thing. So it was kind of like, it was weird sort of eventually walking into wrestling and working in wrestling and going, why on earth are they calling the lassies divas? Because they are not that at all. Like, they just, it's a weird sort of thing. But yeah, if it completely makes sense, like, there's boys that I train with, and I'm like, there's that boys that I train with where we actively go, I have an idea, come here, and they come because I know they're like I know they're roughly the size of so and so. So if I can do that on him, I can do. You know what I mean? It's that kind of way, and it's the same with me. Like, I can go, I have an idea, come here. All right, cool, no bother. Like, because we in training already mentally, physically match people up. So if we're doing it in training, and I understand I'm in a whole new world of training in comparison, but yeah, to me, if it physically makes sense, if it's not clearly taking the mick out its own self and taking mick out the profession and the business, then why on earth can it not happen? Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not putting Peyton Royce in with Braun Strowman. Like, that's not a thing. Mad, what's it? Is it who's AJ Styles? What's the boy?
I think that's I can't say his name.
Him. I'm not putting him in with any of the lassies because he's literally a giant. But like, it's so many. Like, AJ Styles and Asuka would be great. There's so many. There's so many that I just think Charlotte Flair's. I think the one in my head that I'm just like, I think she's the one that could do it because she's 5'10", 5'11", so she's about the same height as the majority of the guys. It's just that nose to nose picture that I think of. But
yeah, I think somebody like Charlotte would be great for me. The first kind of time I started to take women's wrestling seriously, which is terrible to say, is 2002 Survivor Series, Trish Stratus against Victoria. It was like a hardcore match. I remember seeing it and being like, whoa, this is cool. Like,
that's because Victoria back in the day was the girl that would like, she kind of just was natural to it. So she's the one that would just go, come here, let's go. Like, it's strange in hearing like the amount of people that like thank her in her Hall of Fame speeches and things like that. And you're like, she was one of those people that she understood that it wasn't just about her. She was incredibly talented, but she understood the business, and I think she still obviously does. But she knew, right, I either need to make them look good or they need to be good enough to make me look good. Because if they're rubbish, I look awful. You know what I mean? Like, you can be doing the best job in the world, but if you're in the ring with somebody who's just no even thinking about what just happened or things like that, then it looks awful when you look bad, even though it's not your fault. So
yeah, on that kind of thing as well, I would like to see, so something I've been talking about with a few people I've had on the podcast is I would love to see the Royal Rumble become like this. Have just put women in it as well. Then you get those kind of matchups as well. If they don't want to do like Charlotte versus Rollins or whatever, you can make that matchup happen in the Royal Rumble. I've been like, because then whoever wins it is literally the best wrestler in the company. You can give it to a woman who's going to be the best wrestler in the company. Like, this is the star for this year. Now, I don't understand why they don't do it. We're not going to... Obviously, there is some people, like I remember being younger with China, King of the Ring 99's one that I always remember because I had the VHS for it. And she was in that King of the Ring and just being like, this is so cool. Like, a woman's like beating the road dog up. Like,
but she looks physically, like, she looks dominating. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the physical, like, China was a whole different spectacle. Yeah. And I love her. Like, I love her, like, completely. Like, everything from the DX stuff to her with Eddie Guerrero being Mamacita and all that. She looked, like, I think I have an absolute crush on Mamacita in China. She looked, her in that red dress with the bouquet of flowers in the middle of the ring. I'm just like, you look divine. But yeah, it's that whole, I keep saying it, if it makes sense, I do understand that there's this pretense of like these women and men shouldn't be fighting, but at the same time, this is competition. They're not having a brawl in the street. He's not just went up and scalped her. There's been, you know what I mean? And yeah, it's a lot like, to me, if it completely makes sense, then why not? But again, I also know there's always going to be opposers. There's always going to be somebody that's like, no. But as a female wrestler who's had to like wade through the mud and still gets it thrown back at me, purely because I know there's going to be people that hate the fact that I'm even wrestling because I'm a girl. And it's not to do with wrestling, like it's the fact that I'm even daring to cross the ropes into the ring. But it means that all that does is fuel the fire for me. All it does is make sure that I never become complacent. I never stop striving to be better and do something different. And I want to do that. I want to basically sort of embed that into everybody else that I work with. And I think like the majority of the people that I work understand like, oh, I get what she's doing. I get that this is the thing. And I'm fully behind people. I know with the girls, it's a case of none of us can just become complacent, because when you become complacent, that's when folk can go, right, well, we need to then go up a gear to drive past them. And you need to go, no, 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 I'm still on this highway and I'm on the Autobahn in Germany and you ain't getting past me. I'm just going to keep going and going and going and going until...
I think it's insane, like, people just separate, like, for me, when I watch NXT or AEW, like, the match that was just there with Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa, like, it's a really good match. Like, I just don't like when people separate wrestling into, like, oh, women's wrestling and, like, men's wrestling. Like, it's just wrestling, just enjoy it. If it's a good match, doesn't matter who's in the ring, just be like, it's a good match.
Like, I completely understand when there's, like, all-female promotions that have been born. And the thing is, like, they get a lot of stick where they're like, you're making it inclusive, you're not letting boys. And I go, wait. You mean like all the years that it happened to us? Now that we do it, it's an issue? No, take a run in to yourself. I'm trying to behave here, not say bad words, but it's that way where I'm just like, right, so we have in the UK, there's maybe 2-3 full, like, all women's promotions. I know there's like places like TNT, for example, they're going to do an all-women's show and they're going to do an all-women's deathmatch tournament. But the reason that's happening is because they've built the roster up that it's something that's now like feasible. It's not just we're doing it as a whim. It's become a point where, like, I was thinking about the last time I was at TNT and it was a live show. There was 9 female roster members backstage. And I was like, and it was nice. It was great sitting on a normal mid show, guys in one room, us in our locker room, and going, it's not just me and one other person. It's a room full of lassies talking about wrestling and fixing, going, oh, I like your new gear. Oh, you try. You know, I mean, it was lovely, and it wasn't an all-women show, but because that roster has built so much, it's quite regular that down there's not just one women's token match. There's 2, there's 3, but it's because it's it's not required, but it's a wanted thing. It makes sense because, of course, I want to know what happened between her and her. And last time we were here, they were having an argument and a fight, and then she ran out and decked her. So I want to know what it makes sense. It's part of the show. It's not oh, here we come again, or like when the She-Wolf's music hits there, people go, yes, we're going to see some carnage. Things are going to happen. And they watch because they're like, we're entertaining, which is why they're watching. It's not, oh, here comes the entertaining girls. It's here come the entertaining wrestlers.
That's the kind of thing that I always take in. Like, it's wrestlers. Like, if it's an all-women promotion, I'm going to watch it if it's good wrestling. Like, there's all-guy promotions that are terrible wrestling as well. So,
but the thing is, the all-guy promotions don't get called all-men promotions. It's just, the show's all guy. Like, the show just gets booked and it's all guys. But if you were to, like, it's one of those ones that I also know if you were to say, this is an all-men promotion, they'd be uproar. But if you do it to women, there are guys that are like, why is this? This is inclusive. And I go, right, but that show's inclusive, that one is as well, that one is as well, that one is as well. There's another one. Do you want me to keep going? No? Okay. You just don't name it that. At least they have the gall to say, this is all women.
I
think there will be a point in time where it's not required. It's just a thing that is.
Yeah, definitely. That kind of just, at some point, it'll just be wrestlers. There's wrestling, which will be the way it should be, because that's what we all love watching. And so, a couple of questions that we always like to ask everybody that we've had on is, first one is, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Do you see yourself women's champion for WWE, or do you see yourself just being the biggest wrestler ever that changed the world of women's wrestling? Just change it to wrestling.
Both. Both of them. Why not? Like, it's that weird sort of thing where nobody knows. And then, quite frankly, right now, I think this past year or so has taught us all that really none of us know anything. None of us are certain or promised anything. But that's what it is in life. But for me, in all honesty, see as long as that I'm still enjoying what I'm doing, and I'm still able to help people. Like, I find I was always lucky growing up, even as a toddler. Like, my mum would tell stories about how she'd come and pick me up from nursery, and the nursery teacher would say to her, like, there was an incident today, and she'd be like, oh, what happened? They went, well, um, the boys fell out with Louise because they were playing a game and she asked to join in, and they told her no because she was a girl, and she was like, no, I can play this, because it never was taught to me that as a girl I couldn't do certain things. As a girl I shouldn't be picking up the heavy things because I should wait for a boy. It just wasn't. It was the thing that, like, and it's that sort of thing. Like, I think gender stereotypes, anything that's like racism, homophobia, and everything, they are taught things. They're not things that you know or that you learn from birth. It's not just something that's programmed into you. It's something that somebody teaches you. And that's sort of the problem. Like one of my mum's best mates was a boy called Martin. Martin had a boyfriend, and I was just like, oh, okay, because that was taught to me, and I was like, oh, okay. So I taught them that's allowed. That's fine. That's okay. It was never taught that Martin has a boyfriend, and I'd be like, okay, like, mum has a boyfriend, dad has a girlfriend, and, like, you know what I mean? It's that kind of. It's just that was never taught to me. I learned that, like, we had a wee corner shop, and the man that ran it was a man called Shinda, and he was Sikh. But I remember the one thing I remember is he gave me a VHS tape of, like, the original Ghostbuster cartoon. And so Shinda was a nice man. So that's all I knew, was Shinda was a nice man. And so the day where Shinda's windows got panned in, I was like, why would they do that? Like, toddler me was like, I don't understand. Shinda's a nice man. Why would you smash Shinda's windows? But obviously later on in learning, obviously, oh, racists. That's why. Like, and it's ridiculous to me because that sort of thing was never taught. But it's the same with, like, gender roles. Like, I work for a company called Inside the Ropes as well, when we do these sort of Q&A tours and stuff like that. And the crew always laugh at, like, when they see guys try, like, they talk about in particular, there was a show with JR and we were doing it in Newcastle, and we'd loaded up this lift. I got in the lift to take it up, but when the lift doors open, I'd already picked up these two tables and was coming out this lift, and this guy stepped forward and was like, oh, give me them, and try to take them off me, and I just went, F off, I've got it, like, and kept going. He was like, oh, and I was like, right, I'm fine if it opens and I've not got any in my hand, you're like, pass me those. That's polite and things like that. But see if a girl is actively being able to carry this, she's not struggling, it's not a problem, do not go over and take it off her. She's going to be like, are you actually kidding me? Like, no, there's being a gentleman, and then there's being a gentleman, and then there's actively trying to look like one. So if you're just a gentleman, you'd be like, okay, cool. And then you'd go, do you want me to take this? Yes, please, you get the next thing. I've got this. But actively trying to take someone out of my hands, I'm like, go run up, go away, jog on, like, off you pop. Like, and they always laugh going, and when they seen it, they were like, this is going to be funny. Because they're like, Louis, like, I'm the one that they're like, yeah, if there's going to be a fight, she's getting involved. Like, she's the one you need to worry about. Like, I even remember when we did, like, the tour with Goldberg, and there's a guy that worked for us called Ollie, and he's about 6'4", 6'5", sort of just large frame gentleman, but couldn't fight for toffee. Like, it's just no him. Like, he's just a big guy. So, like, Goldberg kept on trying to, like, jab fun, like, hey, don't do this, and blah blah blah, and he was like, Goldberg keeps shouting at me. And then there's a point where he went, I'm not the one that you should be afraid of. And he was like, what? And I went, she is. Like, and it was like, hello. But it's that way where, yeah, it's never been a thing that's taught to me at all. And I'm very glad that was the way. What did you ask that I got in this tangent?
I've totally forgot. My daughter's pretty similar. So when she's at nursery, she's like, so we have a boy and a girl. She's the younger one, but there's like we don't. When I was growing up, I didn't get taught about like if you have a boyfriend, girlfriend, it doesn't bother me whatever colour you are. Don't really care. But my daughter is literally like, so I try and teach her like jiu-jitsu. So cause I wanted to be a wrestler because I tried to be it, then I broke my neck and I wasn't able to do it. But I want her to come in and do it, like join, like follow what I was trying to get into. Obviously, I'm kind of doing something similar with it just now, but she's like, no, I don't want to do it. I want to be a gymnast. And I was like, that's cool, be a gymnast, but she likes jiu-jitsu, so I teach her that. And she gets my son into like arm bars and nursery and stuff. And she's like, oh, this boy hit me. And I'm like, well, if somebody hits you, just tell the teacher. If they don't do anything, they keep doing it, hit them back. Like, don't let them push you. But she will literally just deck somebody. My son is more the opposite. He'll be like, I'll go tell the teacher and then I'll just stay away from them. But my daughter will just slap the hell out of you if you. She does it to me.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
she'll just slap
my parents taught me that. Like, if somebody hits you, go tell a teacher, tell an adult, and get it dealt with. That. But if they continue to do it, that's a bully, and you need to put them in their place. So I always did the right thing. Like, I always did what was asked of me first, but I'd usually throw in like a wee warning. Like I remember I ended up in a. This is super personal, but like I ended up in a massive argument with a modern studies teacher, right, when I was like at fifth year. I was in high school, and I mean like shouting at him like, no, the reason we fail our prelims is because you never taught us anything, like blah blah blah, right? But I talked to my mum and dad about it and stuff, and they were like, well, you need to go and talk to like your guidance, and you need to go and talk to, so there's like guidance teachers, like I'm sure you know what that is, but like in America there's these people you can go to and sort of converse things. So I'd go to them, and I even went to like the deputy headmaster, and I went to people and said, look, I'm having a problem with this teacher. My problem is the fact that I feel like I'm not actually getting taught anything. And I'm actually dyslexic, so telling me just read this bit of the book is not of any use. And I kept trying to convey that. I even tried to convey that to him multiple times, and it was just not heard. There was like a problem with like teaching, like with teachers. And I remember we split, like it was intermediate 1, intermediate 2, and higher, which I was doing higher. We're all sharing the same class. We're all sharing the same teacher. And then the reason why I broke was when they eventually got another teacher to come into the school and teach intermediate 1 and intermediate 2, and we were getting our teacher back, he started planning a German exchange and focused on doing that while we were in the class, and that was my tipping point. And I was like, nah. And I let him go for a cut, and then I just eventually I remember he said something, and I just threw my book down. I stood up, and I was just like, maybe it's because you've not taught us anything. Maybe it's because you decided to go and try and prioritise a German exchange rather than you're teaching your students. And I just ripped this guy a new one. He was like, get out of my classroom, you go down and speak to so-and-so. And I was like, fine, they know I'm coming. And when I got down, knocked on the door, and I pushed the door, I was like, hey, I told you this was going to happen if nothing got done. This is what's happened. And they were like, cool. And it was that point where I always did what was asked. I always went to the right people. I always expressed my way. I always knew that. I knew, right, I need to do it all by the book, so that when eventually I throw the book against the wall, I've went, I'm going to do this. If you don't do anything, you're going to do it? You're going to do something? No, boom, right, cool. And I've always kind of been like that. I will do it by the book. I'll do it the best I can, and I'll keep warning you. If you don't do it, I'm going to throw the book away. And then I remember throwing the book away, but I just have sort of applied that to everything.
I'm quite similar, so I'm dyslexic as well. I'm sure you'll remember in school when they would tell you, if it's primary school, I always remember this, and they'll be like, oh, just go look it up in the dictionary. And I'm like, I don't know how to spell the word, I don't know what it starts with, like sound it out. And I'm like, well, I don't know what it starts with. And then they would go, it starts with N, and I'm sitting there on my paper, I've wrote down like C, and I'm like, I don't even know what it starts with. And I just remember just standing up and going, you know what, this is terrible. And I left. The teacher took me in the head teacher's office, was ready to get suspended and stuff like that. And then somebody in the class was like, no, like the guy's literally trying, he doesn't know how to do it. And the teacher ended up getting really into a lot of trouble. But you get that all the time as well, like you're saying, because sometimes when you get older as well, teachers just sometimes feel like they're just there just to get a paycheck and they don't care. Like you try and get through good exams. I had problems with prelims. Is terrible as well.
The thing is with me, like the only time, so for all my days, like in primary school, my mum particularly was like, I think she's dyslexic. You need to teach her. But see, because I was a good student, I didn't lash out. I didn't go in it like I'd try. Every year my report card is she needs to work on her writing and her spelling. Everything else, fine. That was always it. And my mum would be like, you need to try. And I'm like, I am. And she kind of was like, I know. But it wasn't until I got a primary 7 teacher was Mrs. Adams. I remember Mrs. Adams. And she was brand new. We were our first class she ever had. And she instantly, within a month, was like, she's dyslexic. Like, she just was like, and my mum was like, right, okay. So I ended up getting the test and stuff, and it wasn't until I really went into high school, because it was very difficult to sort of get it all confirmed when we're trying to stuff, but in high school and it getting properly confirmed, because teachers were like, right, especially the class I was in, like my class was a class called, we were the H class, so it was like 1A, 1B, we were 1H, I remember in first year, and they used to call our class 1 hell. Like we were the hell class, because the class was just like, remember in English, a table getting thrown across the room and all sorts, like it was just madness. And I was the angel in it. It wasn't that I was being anything special. I just didn't throw furniture at teachers. And I didn't try and, like, when a Bunsen burner got introduced, I didn't try and set anything on fire. That was me behaving. I was just like, okay. So I got away. When I described my school uniform, like, I think if I was one of the bad students, I would have been penalised for what I was wearing. But because I behaved, they were just like, it's fine. She's cool. She's no trouble. Let her wear a skull on her backyard shirt. That's fine. Like, because I still, obviously I needed to wear a shirt, I needed to wear a tie. And I wore the shirt, I had a giant big like skull and crossbone on the back here and like patches on in the front, and my tie was like doing it at my stomach, but I was still wearing it, so they were like, she's still wearing it, that's fine. But
the worst thing is when I was at school, it was pretty similar. Like my class used to like throw the Bibles across the thing and hit people with it, and it was insane. And I was always pretty good. But the worst thing with me is I'm like the most competitive person you'll ever meet. Like if we were in a race, like you could literally probably pick more weight up than me, right? But I will literally separate my arms to try and beat you like that. I'm the most competitive person ever. And with the dyslexic tests, when I was doing it, it was in school and you were on like a computer. I don't know if I was similar with you, but there was other people there and I wanted to beat them. So like I passed it the first time, then the second time was the same, and then they put me in the room myself and were like, all right, no, you're dyslexic, you're just really scarily competitive. Because I was like, well, if these guys are going to say like they've got something, I want to do everything as best as I could. Like I want to get every single thing 100% right. Like I want to be the best in this room. That's how competitive I am. I passed it twice because I was that competitive, and then they were like, "Oh no, like you're really dyslexic. You kind of need to. We need to come take you out and teach you and stuff like that," which is also a bad thing because how competitive I am. But finishing up the podcast, we normally have 3 questions that we always ask. So the first one is, who's your favourite wrestler of all time?
My boy is Edge. Like he was my poster boy. Like we did a Inside the Ropes tour with him, and I wholeheartedly believe that Kenny McIntosh booked him purely to see me flustered, because I'm Mrs. Cool. Like I'm fine. Undertaker saunters in. I'm like, you all right, Mark? How's your day? I'm fine. But yeah, 100% they did it purely to see me flustered. But yeah, he was massive influence on me. But I don't tell him that because he'll get egotistical. No, he sounds anything. But yeah, like I'm very glad that I think the people that were, well, I've not met everybody yet, but the people that I've so far that I've met who have been genuine influences on my career. Even Goldberg, the fact that he was the screaming face, like I was glad he was nice and he wasn't a dick, because I was like, oh thank Christ, my whole existence and everything I'm working for in life means it's okay, I'm allowed to, it's fine. But yeah, like Edge is definitely he's my boy. But there's loads of people that I love. Like I love I love somebody who's magical with a microphone. Like your Pipers and stuff like that are just the best. Like I think not unknown. I don't say he's unknown because I think that's insulting. But like, I love guys like Steve Carino, and like I say, Steve Carino was CM Punk before CM Punk was CM Punk, and I love CM Punk getting great with a microphone. I'm a sucker for a good promo. But yeah, no, Edge is definitely like. Who doesn't love Stone Cold Steve Austin? I question you if you don't love Stone Cold Steve Austin, but yeah, there's loads of people that influence me, but like Edge was my poster boy, and yeah, I'm never gonna say otherwise.
For me, it has to be Sting. That was my man. When I seen him on the TV when I was younger, and I was like, this is the guy I need to watch. And I've just ever since then I've watched everything he's done. I'm just a big mark, and I probably would pass out if I ever met him. Just
well, I'll let you know, we did the tour with him, and he's a very lovely and polite man. So you've made a good choice there as well. Like there's some people I'm like, good choice. He's sound. That's fine. Like there's some like.
And what's your favourite match you've ever took part in? What's something that you've done and you're just like, this is what I'm really, really proud of? What's something that you've kind of done at that point?
I don't know. There's loads of moments that I'm really proud of. Like, in all honesty, like my first match, I'm proud of the fact that I actually got to do it. Like, I actually got to a point where I was like, I'm good enough to have a match in front of people, in front of a room full of strangers. Which a lot of people, you cringe. Like, it's in no way, shape, or form like a 5-star or anything like that. But I think also like the extra bonus of like my first couple of matches. Like my first match was a tag match, but then my first singles match were both with Casey Owens, who has become my best mate, and she's been with my career the whole time. Christ, we're a tag team now. We travel the world together. Like my last match was up before lockdown, was at the Pavilion with Angel Hayes at Grado's sort of show in Glasgow. But literally a few days before that, we were coming back from Germany, wrestling each other, and she's always just been a bit. I can't get rid of her now. Like I sometimes try and lose her in the forest, but she just seems to find her way out. But I think I'm just really proud. I'm really proud of I'm really proud that there's promotions that I've had the balls to say to them, this is my idea, and they went with it, and I've managed to like fulfill what I said. Because anything that I've said I wanted to do, I've done it. And that's what I'm most proud of. There's loads of elements, there's loads of things that I've concocted or things like that. But I think I'm most proud of the fact that I'm actually doing this. And I've stuck to my guns and I've said, I'm doing this and this is happening. And it has. I remember I took a... So just before I started training, I was booked in, I was starting at GBWA. I got a new job. And I'll always remember David Carson was my boss was called David Carson. And like we couldn't be more polar opposite as people, but I remember him talking to me and I'm saying the whole like, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? And I was like, you want the honest answer, or do you want me to make something up that you like the hear that like the sound of? And he was like, honest. I went, as a professional wrestler. And he was like, what? And I then explained, like, I'm going to go do this and that. I'm already working for this promotion called ICW, and we're going to, like, our plans are, I think at that point we were just going to the Barrowlands or something like that, and like we hope to maybe do the ACCC one day and da la la. And I said all this stuff, and he said I was either the most honest person he's ever interviewed or I was insane, and he was interested in seeing which one would happen. And everything I said happened. Everything I did came true. And he was like, I can completely trust you because even in your insanity, it happens. So that's what I'm mostly proud of. That I stick to my guns when I say I'm going to do something. And there's loads. There's so much. I could go from ICW debuts to wrestling for Ring of Honor, which was mind-blowing. And when I got the message through, I threw my phone across a room, and there's all sorts. There's loads of stuff that I didn't even fathom that I'd be able to do that I have done. But yeah, sticking with my gut, that's the thing I'm most proud of.
I would say I'm similar in that kind of sense as well. Like if I get a feeling in my gut, I'll just go do it. Like I've been to times I've went to go to job interviews when I was trying to set up my business and stuff like that, and I've been like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I'd be like, well, I'd have a successful business. And they'd be like, okay, what are you getting this job for? And I was like, well, need money. Like I'm not going to lie to you. I'm literally here because I need to pay my rent. Like I'm no lying.
Yeah.
And they were always like, oh, at least you're honest, you know. Because I'm like,
Yeah.
so,
I think a lot of people, especially nowadays, like do respect that if you are able to go, this is the truth. I know it sounds mad, but this is the truth. And I do, he always said he was like, he hired me because he was like, I wanted to see where it went. I wanted to think, you're either going to be absolutely insane and all kinds of, because of what he was like, why would you lie about that? And if you are lying about that, that's incredibly creative. So what on earth is going to come out of you? But the fact that I was completely telling the truth, he was like, cool. Like he could, like even now he's like, I can, like there'll be times where he'll message me if he's working in like if he's managing a new bar or something, and he's like, right, these guys don't know how to make all this stuff. Going to just come in and like for a week or so, and I'll pay, and I'm like, I cool, and like teach them stuff. So like occasionally, like I'll do the odd bar shift and play, but it's usually for him because he's like, I completely trust you, even though you're an absolute lunatic, and I'm like, thanks, Davey.
and the way we always finish this is with the exact same question, and everybody either loves it or they hate it. So I'll give you my example for the question. So the question is, if you could replace somebody or add yourself to any match in history, any event, what would it be? For me, I would replace Owen Hart against Bret Hart in that blue steel cage at SummerSlam '94, because that match, just to this day, I can watch it all the time, and I would love to take part in it, even though I would probably ruin it, but I would like to take part in it. What would yours be?
Oh, Jesus Christ. That's so hard.
I always keep it as a surprise as well, because it is such a kind of cool question to think about as well, because so much that you can think about.
Right. What? Saki, I want to get joined on the first ever women's WrestleMania main event. Why not? Why there's not? It's all hypothetical. There's no happening. Yeah, let's make that three-way dance a four-way, right? Let's get somebody Scottish in. Like let's have a Celtic connection with me and Becky, and like get through. Let's go with that. Because why not? If it's getting made up, why not go? Like, let's go for the big shots. Let's go for the Mac Daddy of them all. And the main event of WrestleMania, I'll just jump in.
That's literally the most modern one and the most known one that we've had. There's people who's picked like this random match on Raw and stuff like that. So it's pretty refreshing to get something like new.
There's loads, but if you're going to think hypothetical, like if you're going to think like, it's like the idea of like the amount of people that are like, oh, if you're going to have your dream match, who would it be against? And I'm like, okay, this is hypothetical. Give me Edge. Why would I not want to wrestle my favourite wrestler of all time? Like, why would you not want that? Like, there's people that I genuinely think of, and I'm like, I'd love to wrestle Miko. It gives me the fear, but I think I'd learn a lot. But if it's in a hypothetical circumstance, why not go big? And really, with women, the women's matches, it's only really been, well, and we've even discussed that, it's only really been in recent times where there's anything properly, like, not respect, that sounds horrendous, because, like, you've got your Bull Nakanos and your Alondra Blazes match, but they were ahead of their time. You've got, there's loads, but, yeah. Or Saki, put me in the hardcore match with Edge and Mick Foley, and, like, we'll add Lita in, and I can be in Foley's corner. And I'll be the one that spears them both through the table. Why not? I feel it's a question where it's either something that you've thought about too much, like clearly yourself has.
This is the 22nd one of these. I've said this one 22 times now, so this is my jam. But I love asking people it because it's always like one of those like brain teasers, because it's like, well, I would like to be in this. Like, even for me, I'm like, well, there's like 4, 5, 6, but I always go for that one just because it looks pretty cool. And it's always one of those kind of ones you're like, well, do I go for the big flashy one? Or like you're saying like Edge, who's your favourite wrestler in the women's main event? Like, what do you do? I love asking it because it's such a intriguing question to find out answers for.
Like, there's loads of matches that are loads of matches that are incredibly important to me. But when I say them, people go, what? And I go, aye, but this bit, like, there literally could be 5 seconds of a match that has made such a stamp on me that even though the rest of it is utter, like, lunacy, that 5-second bit has, like, slapped me in the face, and I've went, right, okay, this is my jam. But yeah, why not? Why not put me in the main event of WrestleMania? Like, let's go for it. Main event, WrestleMania, because we all want to be there. And no matter how much you say, like, oh no, I'd happily, we all want to be there. Like, I might never get there, but it doesn't mean I don't want to be there.
I know when people say, like, even like when fans or wrestlers or whoever on, they're like, oh, we're not really interested in going to WWE or ever working for them and stuff like that. I'm like, if WWE happened to come along and be like, would you like to do a podcast on me? I would scream and dance around the house and be like, of course I would. Like, why would
That's
I say no
fine
to the
now.
biggest company
Like,
ever?
see if, like, there's a bit of independent people that I know when I've worked with and stuff who don't have the interest of working with WWE now. That doesn't mean when they were 7 and watching whatever that they didn't think, I want to be a because when you thought I want to be a wrestler, I want to be there. Like, there's every single person, unless, like, I'd maybe believe a Japanese wrestler who's only watched New Japan and Stardom and DDT and like Noah and stuff like that. Like, I'd maybe understand if they said it, but if you're on the Western side of the world and the Mac Daddy of wrestling is WWE, there is a point in time where you've thought, oh, I'd love to go there. I'd just love to be in the performance center. Like, that's a mad thing, but I'd love to just have a go and, like, see it, and my heart would be in my throat the entire time. I know that, but that's because I respect the place so much and know what talent has been produced. Like, when you watch the growth of somebody like Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair and all those people who are now genuinely making a statement, not just for themselves but for the progression of female wrestling, then yeah, of course that place is cool. Like, that place is cool. It doesn't matter, like, if it is, like, there's going to be loads of talent that come from it that might not make it to the main event of WrestleMania. It doesn't mean it's not cool that they taught these people. Like, the reason why FCW was cool and the reason why, like, OVW and that was cool because it made, like, John Cena and Batista and Brock Lesnar and stuff like that. We still talk about them. We still know those letters because that's where the cool people came from. And we all want to at some point. Even if it's right now, they don't. I get it. And right now, there's a massive lottery. Like, it's not just the only place you can go to. There will be people that want to go to, like, kids that want to only go to AEW because that's what they love and enjoy and don't really know who Roman Reigns is. And that's fine and that's cool. But the generation now, where that's been the Mac Daddy for so long, there's a point in time where you've wanted to go, I want to shake Vince McMahon's hand, even though he's mental. But, like, good,
especially people that are going there are getting paid, like, a ton. Like, I would just be happy to go for free. I was meant to go to WrestleMania this year for my 30th, but COVID.
We all were, mate. We all were. Like, I had mates that bought tickets as soon as Drew kicked him out the anime that bought a ticket. As soon as Drew kicked Brock Lesnar out of that ring, he just messaged me going, I bought my ticket, I bought my aeroplane ticket, can I come and stay in your... We'd ordered, like, we'd rented, like, a big apartment and everything. I was like, can I come? Is there a beds free? I was like, yeah, there's one bed free. Smashing, that's mine. I'll pay my bit. Because it was happening.
It was so gutting when everything got shut down. I just remember being like, this has just ruined, like, my birthday. This has just killed me. Like,
Chris, not only was my pal main event in WrestleMania against Brock Lesnar, something that I'd called years before, like, I genuinely an inside the ropes to it. So we've got our photographer's a guy called Chris Sargent, and, like, he does, like, all these different cons and things, like, he knows all these different wrestlers. And he had this big, like, huge signed picture of Drew. I had pictures of him throughout, like, different parts of his career and stuff like that. And at that point in time, he was only selling it for, like, 60 quid, right? It was, like, and it was a proper, beautiful frame and whatever, like, really nice piece. And I remember standing, and, like, the show was coming out, and I remember it was in Manchester. It was a boy in Manchester. And he was looking at them, and he was like, I've got this thing that I want. And I went, I'm surprised nobody's bought Drew. And he went, how? I went, I swear to Christ on my life I said this. I went, that boy is a future WWE champion. He's going to be the first Scottish champion to ever hold that title, and he's going to take it off Brock. And I said that, I went, he's going to take it off Brock. And they went, you think so? I went, 100%. I went, that man is the most driven, focused person I have ever met. The boy taught me how to clothesline people by clotheslining me 3 times, and I got it. Like, he's one of the most driven. I went, and he's taking it off Brock. He's the guy to take it off Brock. And the boy went, all right, I'll buy it. And I'm desperately wanting the boy to come back and be like, you were right, because I've not been able to see anybody on tours because of COVID. But yeah, it's that way where it's like, there's so much about it. So my pal was the main event of Royal Rumble. Edge came back. I'm going to get to see Edge wrestle in person properly for the first time. And I was like, see if... Oh. And there's points in time where I genuinely message him and go, see if you retire after this Mania, I'm falling out with you. Like, you are not allowed to actually retire. Because Edge is one of those guys where, like, the minute people are like, he's a part-timer. No, he's no. He's been on the shelf. He's the same as Daniel Bryan. Edge and Daniel Bryan have the same story. Both forced to retire. Both went to every doctor under the sun and tried to do a new career. But all they kept thinking about was getting back to wrestling. And when they got cleared, they came back and everybody went, yes. They're not part-timers. He's not a part-timer. He's been on the shelf. So don't come at my boy. I'm ready to go if you come at my boy.
I love how passionate you are about Edge as well. A lot of people obviously are saying like he's part-timer and stuff, and you're just like, no. Like, come on then.
I had somebody say that, and I remember saying, if I'm like, he's not part-timer, he's been on the shelf. He's been that dusty can of beans in the back of the cupboard that, although you're leaving it alone, if you're hungry, you will have that on a bit of toast. Like, he's been there. He's always wanted to be there, and he just wasn't getting cleared. And as soon as he was cleared, like, this is how prepared this boy was. And I kicked, like, so obviously when it was happening the night of the Rumble, at that point in time, you were still allowed to be with friends to watch it. So I was with Inside the Ropes crew watching it. And Kenny messaged him saying, so, yeah, the Rumble tonight? And he had pre-recorded videos of him in the house with the girls and playing, going, sorry, mate, no, I'm here. So that if people messaged him, he could send that to him. So when he came out, Kenny was like, yeah, dirty liar! He was so prepared for it. There was a point in time where Wolfie was meant to be over for it, but then wasn't. And when he was going over, I actually said to him, I went, right, this is it. If you find out that either you or Edge are in the Rumble, you just buy me a flight ticket and I'll arrive. Just email me my ticket and I'll arrive. And you don't need to tell me who it is. He's like, because I'm very much like, don't tell me anything. I want to enjoy myself when I'm there. I was like, but that's the two. I went, if either yourself or Edge is in the Rumble, you fly me over. And he was like, okay, deal. But then he obviously didn't end up over. But so he gets away with it.
So finishing kind of up. I know I've said this like twice now, I think it is. But what's it? This is coming out on Sunday, so last night it was ICW Bard. What do you feel about being on that? Because I'm excited to watch it. I think it's going to be a cool card. I like the idea of the kind of cage style. I know there's a lot of people that I've seen on social media saying, oh, it's been done before, which boggles my mind because I'm just excited a Scottish promotion's on the network. But
it's been done before with, I think it was Impact, but that's not WWE. That's not ICW. That means it's the first time it's happened there. Like, if WWE did it, they would be like, Impact did it too. Shh. Right? Stop being that person. That's why I said about channel 22 or 21, like, don't come at me. Quite frankly, I don't care. Like, we've done it. Watch it, right? But to me, the big thing about it is the fact that it's on Peacock, which over here, it doesn't really mean anything to us. But I think it's NBC as Peacock, which obviously their logo is a peacock. That's the massive thing. Like, a Glaswegian Scottish independent promotion is on an app that is in 30 million people's homes in America, in North America. Like, that's what, nearly 7 times, like 6, 7 times the amount of people in Scotland alone, as in a country. That's massive. And that's the real sort of like, okay. And I don't know if it's just like, I look into things all the time. So that's why I know the exact, like, I know it's 34 million. Like, other people were just like, it's over 30 million. I was like, that's still a lot of people. But I know it's 34 million people, which is, I can't even picture that in my head. If that, like, it's that many homes, not people. Sorry, that, not people, homes that it's in. So those homes could have 6 people in it. Like, oh, I can't do the math, but it's a lot. So not only is it broadcast here, and it's a massive thing, that the fact that it's happening at all, but yeah, like this independent company that I originally started working with when they were just sort of getting excited at the fact that they sold out the Square Go at the Classic Grand. Never mind being on a network, not only just the WWE network, but then that moving on to an even bigger network is like, when we first started, I would have thought you were insane if you were, pardon the pun, telling me this. I'd be like, are you making up things again? Like, is this during your dreams and stuff? But that's the massive thing. And for me, like, it's a statement because, yeah, it's not an easy match. It's not a technical masterpiece, but no cage match ever is. And yeah, you should, if you've not seen it, go watch it.
I remember ICW in the Maryhill community halls, which is like, I think there was like 3-4 people when I was there. So I went, it was like nobody there. These guys were putting on a great show. And I just remember being like, oh, this is really cool. Then I decided to start kind of wrestling and stuff myself. My goal was to try and get into ICW before I, unfortunately, obviously injured myself. And then I just remember a few years later, I'm in Classic Grand, Garage, then it was a Hydro, then now the Network. Obviously the cool kind of training centre in Glasgow and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's insane how far Scottish wrestling itself has came from just being like, well, I remember a Garage and then like in Maryhill community halls, SWA going to like Bells Hill and stuff like that, which is insane how far it's came in not even 10 years, less, just over 10 years, which is mind-boggling.
Yeah, like, from where I went, from the first time I came in the door to now, like the fact that I was at a show in Cardiff and I opened the door, I came down a set of stairs in Cardiff and I was shouting about somebody. I was like, where's so and so, yada yada. And Veronica Lestrange was coming down the stairs behind me. So I'm talking to her, going, talking to her. And I open this door and I turn and look and it's Triple H. And I'm like, hello, sir. Because I remember opening the door and her face sort of going, like it was one of those like, oh, and I was like, oh, right, you're what she's reacting to. Like, for that to actually be a thing is, and it was just, Triple H is here. What? Yeah.
It's so insane, like how far it's came. So finishing up, where can people find you? I'll get your links and stuff. They'll all be in the description below. I'll always share ICW stuff in that as well, so they obviously can check you out there. Where would you like people to go find you apart from Twitter or?
I'm actually very easy to find. If you Google Molly Spartan, you find me. I'm Molly Spartan on Instagram, Molly Spartan on TikTok, Molly Spartan on Twitter. I think I'm Real Molly Spartan on Facebook because there is also a roller derby girl who goes by Molly Spartan, and she found me and then started messaging me going, so you're the reason why I keep getting really strange wrestling-related questions sent to me. And I was like, yeah, that'll be my fault, sorry. Yeah, I'm pretty much everywhere. Obviously, there's things like my Big Cartel page, which my merch and my photos and like She Wolves t-shirts as well. But yeah, everything is welcomed. But yeah, I'm very easy to find. I know
I'm
it's a
similar.
good.
It's
I knew it was
just,
good because the image pages on Google is just pictures of me. So I was like, right, cool. Yep, it's definitely me.
it's just one of
Right.
those, like, for me as well. It's the same. I just tell people just type in non-stop wrestling chat, but then on Twitter it's chats non-stop because somebody had non-stop wrestling, and I was like, why can't I not just have it? It makes it simpler for me, and I need to change that one thing, which is a pain. But thanks for being on. Thanks for taking time to be
No
out your
problem.
day to be on the show. If nobody's checked you out, definitely go check you. You're one of the best Scottish women wrestlers, I would say. At the minute, for me, I've been really enjoying your work, and I'm excited to see ICW Bard. I think it'll be pretty cool. I would have seen it by the time this comes out. But if you wait there, I'll end the podcast and I'll let you know like when we're going to upload it and stuff like that.
Cool, no bother.